Hello, minds, and thank you for continuing to watch the Amoral Philosopher blog. This is the third in our series of talks about discrimination. To recap, last time we concluded that we cannot just make a list of protected characteristics such as sex, age, or race and say that these characteristics are always irrelevant for treating people unlike, because sometimes, as we saw, they are. But now this left us with the question of how do we decide when these characteristics become relevant for treating people unlike and when they aren't. And as we will see, this is a somewhat contentious issue. So to start thinking about this, let's consider a case of an airline. We all use that when we're flying, we have to pay more for heavier luggage. And this seems to be fair. After all, heavier luggage means more fuel, less capacity to carry other goods, and so it seems to be fair for us to pay a larger share of the total cost of the flight. But what's often discussed in this connection is where airlines should be allowed to charge people with more body weight more. Now, imagine a case of an extremely obese person. And to make things more complicated, consider that this person is obese not because they are leading an unhealthy lifestyle, but because they have a health condition of some kind. Perhaps they have a genetic disease that makes them obese. Now, what it is that makes them obese may be relevant from the point of view of an airline. After all, for them, more weight means more fuel, and that's why they want to charge that person more. Now, is weight a relevant characteristic in treating this person unlike others in these circumstances? Now, if you adopt a control-based view of discrimination that we considered last time, you may argue that it is not, because weight, at least in this situation, is something that's outside of the person's control, so it's unfair to treat a person unlike others based on this characteristic. On the other hand, if you look at it from the point of view of an airline, you think that maybe it's quite fair to charge more for carrying more weight, just like you have to pay more for sending a heavier parcel, or like you have to pay more for buying 2 kilos of apples instead of 1 kilo of apple. And it doesn't matter that some people have to eat more, you're still paying for the weight that you buy. Now, perhaps when we look at this from this viewpoint, weight then becomes a relevant characteristic. So what may be the case here is that there may be a set of different values, commitments, or interests that are being in play, and they clash with each other when we try to decide whether the discrimination is permissible or wrongful. So, for instance, the airline may be committed to a few things. They may be committed to treating all their passengers equally, regardless of their weight, body shape, or health condition. At the same time, they may be committed to guaranteeing low prices to all their passengers and not transferring the cost of carrying heavier passengers to the other passengers' airfare. And at the same time, they may also be interested and have a legitimate interest in lowering their cost connected with additional fuel usage. Now, the problem is that when we look at these three commitments, you cannot stay committed to them in conjunction. At least one of them has to go, and you have to decide which one it's got to be. So perhaps what we have in cases like that, when we try to decide on whether discrimination is permissible or wrongful, is some kind of a balancing exercise when we try to balance different values, considerations, and interests against each other, and then whether discrimination becomes wrongful or permissible is somehow relative to this priority that we set between these competing interests, considerations, and values. I wonder what you think about these thoughts. I'll leave you with it, and I'll see you next time.